Today, we are talking about using dialogue to add details in my writing. As you may or may not remember, dialogue is the words coming out of a character's mouth in a story. So if you see our little Bitmojis here, Mrs. Breen is saying, "Mrs. Dunham, are you so excited to talk about dialogue format?" asked Mrs. Breen. Yes, exclaimed Mrs. Dunham. Let's do it. So you'll notice if Mrs. Breen and I were actually having this conversation, she would not be saying asked Mrs. Breen, and I would not be saying exclaimed Mrs. Dunham. Those are the action parts of the sentence. It can be kind of tricky to figure out. You'll notice these quotation marks that are here. That is showing the reader the words coming out of the character's mouth. So we're going to practice doing that today. I have with me Mr. Dunham to help us out.
Hello.
So whenever you hear a Mr. Dunham's voice when we're reading, that's going to be, sorry, we were practicing. That's going to be the action part of the sentence. So you'll notice this sentence is about as a teacher asking a class a question. I am going to be saying the words coming out of the teacher's mouth, and Mr. Dunham is going to be saying the action. So class, what is your favorite sport to play?
The teacher asked.
So the words coming out of the teacher's mouth were, so class, what is your favorite sport to play? You'll notice there were those quotation marks. We're going to make them nice and big here. So we have those quotation marks marking off what the teacher said. Let's try the next one. My favorite has to be baseball,
said Dean.
So if you take a look, you'll notice those quotation marks, and I'm going to drag them down nice and big here. That is what Dean said. Here's the next one.
Olivia responded,
My favorite is definitely soccer. So sometimes it can be tricky because the dialogue is not always the first part of the sentence. So in this one, it was the action first. So we're going to put those quotation marks around what Olivia said. You'll also notice that I have my green quotation marks and my red quotation marks. That is on purpose because this is where the character starts talking and this is where the character ends talking. Obviously, you're not going to do that in your own writing, but just for now while we're practicing. So I'm just going to pause a second here so you can think about this next one. This one's a head scratcher. All right. I like all sports,
said Caleb.
My favorite is football, though. So this actually has two parts of dialogue in one. It starts here, it ends here. It starts with my and ends with though. So if you were just talking to Caleb, Caleb would say, I like all sports. My favorite is football, though. But we had to throw that action in here so that our character knew what we were talking about.